Okay, so here are 5 MFR tips. So firstly, what is MFR? MFR basically is self-massage. So if you go to a massage therapist and you get a deep tissue massage, this is the same thing, it's just that you're doing it yourself. It is remarkably good, MFR, at starting you out on a road of improving your posture and improving your movement. And if you do MFR regularly enough, then you can actually really reduce areas of pain and stiffness. And it's probably, for most people, this is probably one of the best things that you can do to reduce pain and stiffness, especially around the hips and lower back, but also you may be surprised about what other areas it can hit as well, even if you're massaging well away from the area of soreness. So 5 tips. So here we go with number 1. So firstly, use different tools. So I use predominantly this thing. It's called a Theracane. I found this is the best massage cane on the market. So I use this for areas particularly around my back that I can't reach very easily with balls. But basically I do every other area with a hard ball and also a small basketball here. These ones are particularly good, the basketball and the tennis ball, for when you're first starting out. So this basketball, and you can go bigger than this too, so you can go to the football size thing, but also you can inflate and deflate the ball for hardness, because when you first start MFR, it's going to be quite painful in different areas, and if you deflate the ball like this, you can make it a little less painful, but it's still targeted enough to make a difference. And tennis balls, this gets a little bit harsher. Obviously it's smaller, there's more of a targeted pressure on the muscle here, so that's going to be a bit more painful. But you need this for some smaller areas like your TFL and your gluteus medius, for example. You need a small ball to get into those areas. What I don't recommend is a foam roller. Foam rollers put you in some funny old positions. It's very difficult to get in a relaxed, comfortable position on a foam roller, but also it isn't targeted or deep enough. The foam roller is too broad and it won't get into those tissues deep enough to make a real difference. Okay, that one leads me on to tip number 2, which is try to relax. This is really important, especially when you're first starting out and around your hips especially. When we start digging these balls into your hips, for example, particularly at the ITB, around the area around the ITB, it's going to be pretty painful. So, firstly, try and pick a tool. You can even go to a racquetball that's quite soft to begin with, because it's going to be super painful on that ITB for most people. So try and be comfortable first. You're going to have, I would say, be comfortable in the rest of your body, but realise that you will feel discomfort at the area that you're massaging. That's going to be inevitable, but it shouldn't be excruciatingly painful. It may get quite close to that, but for the rest of your body, try and be in as relaxed a position as you possibly can manage. If you're really tense while you're doing the release, it's going to kind of be a bit counterproductive. So tip 3, and I think this is one of the most important areas, and one of the areas that I see clients especially and people I talk to about my kind of training make the most mistakes on, is don't focus on the area of stiffness too much. Obviously, if you've got a sore lower back or a sore shoulder, for example, you might want to roll around the shoulder area, you might want to roll in the lower back area, but to be honest, this is probably going to be the least effective thing you can do, particularly if you just do it in isolation. It's not really going to make much difference. What people don't really understand about the human body is that it's so interconnected, and so you have to think what's causing that shoulder to become stiff and painful in the first place. What's causing the lower back to be stiff and painful. For instance, in the shoulder, it may just be that your pectoralis muscles are too tight. So your pecs attach here. If they get too tight, they'll pull the shoulder into that rotation, the inward rotation. So it may be your pecs that you need to release, not so much the shoulder. Maybe even your lats below the shoulder, maybe they're helping depress the shoulder. It's going to be slightly individual for everyone, but think more about what's going on around the shoulder rather than on the shoulder itself. Also, in the lower back area, for example, probably the most common issue people have is with an anterior tilted pelvis. So I might have to go slightly out of camera shot here to show you, but an anterior tilted pelvis would be something like that. If I show you the curve in the lower back, an anterior shifted pelvis is something like that. Now, it's very likely that tight hip flexors or tight hips generally are going to cause that problem with your lower back. They're going to cause that anterior tilt. They're going to cause the original compression in your lower back. It may be something else, but it's very likely that that's going on around the hips. So if you just release your lower back, it's highly likely that the next time you go for a walk or do any activity, all the tightness around your hips is going to just bring all that tension back on your lower back. So focus, I would say, more around your hips than your lower back specifically, and you might find great relief from doing that. For instance, if we get back to that anterior tilt, so where we've got your tight hip flexors pulling you at the hips there, if you relieve that tightness in the hip flexors, you're going to take some pressure off that lower back. So don't always focus on the area of pain. You have to think a little bit more nuanced than that to get the most benefit out of the massage. Okay, tip 4 is don't roll around too much. So go slow. So there's a temptation with self-massage that people just kind of roll. You often see people in the gym foam rolling their lower back and they're really moving a lot. What we really want to focus on is going slow. So when you're rolling across a muscle, we're going to try and find some, almost like a guitar string or like a little peak come up that's a bit painful, and then once you find it, you hold it on it. You just hold it there, and you may want to move a fraction from that position, but the massaging itself should be super slow. So you find those areas of pain and you stick on it. You find the areas of pain or discomfort, and also it's almost like a ridge that you hit sometimes. So you want to hit kind of the top of the ridge, and that really helps. Then if you just hold on the spot, it helps release it really well. If you roll around too much, you're not going to get quite such good effect from it. Number 5 is stay with it. So particularly when you first start doing MFR, it's going to be quite painful. It's going to feel quite time consuming, and it may take a couple of weeks before you actually start to feel much benefit. But if you can stick at it, and I'm sort of talking if you can do it almost every other day, this is probably what people need, almost every other day to do MFR. You think when you get a massage from a massage therapist, it feels really good, but that feeling is really fleeting. For some people it only lasts a couple of hours, some people it might last a day or two, but then they go do their other activities, they're obviously not moving perfectly and the tension is brought right back on. The whole purpose of my training is that we get to a point where you have something like a massage and then you move really correctly in the right way that suits human biomechanics, that respects that, and then when you move you're not bringing the tension back on you, so you need to do less myofascial release. But in the beginning you need to do that myofascial release, and you need to do it often. That's the whole reason that MFR, doing it yourself, is really effective, because you're not paying for a massage therapist that you have to book in with every time you do MFR. You can do it yourself, you get great feedback from doing it yourself. It just takes a few weeks of getting through the pain and discomfort to form a new habit, and also to learn how to do it properly, because you're really teaching yourself how to be your own massage therapist. So I hope those 5 tips help. These are some issues that I find with clients, and trying to get people to do MFR in the first place is really, really difficult. They just want to get straight in with the exercises, but I can assure you if there's anything that you're going to get benefit from, is the MFR is so important before that you start tinkering around with the way you move and your structure too much, because the MFR will really help you move and hold yourself properly going into future training. Okay, so thanks very much.